Chapter 66, The Pearl Becomes Powder. Is this the school's emergency center? This is the Mystery Branch Institute's number 2 multi-purpose teaching hall. A student here has sustained serious external injuries and needs emergency treatment. Wen Xiao only glanced at Deng Wei before immediately calling the emergency department. External injuries? Burns? Or a large number of lacerations? Do you need large-scale life support devices? He has external injuries. There's no need for large-scale life support equipment. He might need emergency surgery, Wen Xiao said as he looked at the wound on Deng Wei's stomach. This was too much. Number? Wen Xiao was about to mention someone when Zhu Tui suddenly said, "Teacher, I need one too." 2 people. Wen Xiao looked deeply at Zhu Tui. The applause gradually stopped. The students below the stage were a little shocked by Deng Wei's injuries. After all, according to what Mr. Wen said, Deng Wei's external injuries were rather serious. However, no one sympathized with Deng Wei. He had asked for it because he was too arrogant. He was too ignorant. On the contrary, the students became concerned about Zhu Tui's injuries. A caring female student had already brought him a tissue. Far away, Che Zan gave Zhu Tui a thumbs up. Zhu Tui rubbed the remaining smooth pearl in his hand. He then looked at Deng Wei, who had fallen to the ground and was howling in pain. A hint of sympathy flashed past his eyes, but it quickly became determined. He had asked for it. He had already given Deng Wei a chance. However, not only did Deng Wei use extreme force, he also did not hold back when he stomped on the areas where Zhu Tui had no protective gear. He deserved it. He shouldn't have any serious residual effects, right? Deng Wei had avoided the mental awl that Zhu Tui had aimed at his eyes just now. However, he did not manage to avoid Zhu Tui's flicking technique. One of the 2 pearls accurately pierced into the knee joint of Deng Wei's left leg from the side and interrupted his attack. The other pearl hit Deng Wei's vital spot at his lower abdomen. Zhu Tui did not know exactly how badly he was injured. However, it was definitely not light. 2 minutes passed. Deng Wei was still crying out in pain. He could not get up on his own. Wen Xiao, who had always been smiling, had a dark expression while he was waiting for the emergency treatment. This class is... Less than 3 minutes later, the medical personnel from the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College's Emergency Medical Center rushed over. They were carrying 2 gurneys. Zhu Tui laid down on the gurney by himself. The medical personnel first examined Deng Wei's injuries to see if he needed emergency treatment. However, he became extremely shocked after he took a look. "Mr. Wen, what happened? Why was it so brutal? It has not been 3 months, right? Do your best to treat him. I'll release a report about the incident later." Wen Xiao had a headache. The ambulance had left. There was a pool of blood on the temporary stage. There were also specks of blood. The grim-faced Mr. Wen Xiao continued his lesson. "Students, there was an accident during today's practical battle. However, it is more educational. The battle between Che Zan and Deng Wei was a practice run. The battle between Zhu Tun and Deng Wei was closer to a real battle. Their actions were a little extreme, but it was closer to an actual battle. However, I want to tell you that the outcome of today's battle is nothing. Because you are new students, you have 3 months of rapid growth. Therefore, you will be protected for the next 3 months. 3 months later, getting injured or severely injured would become a daily occurrence for you. You might even die. Of course, the medical center and emergency services in our school are all very professional. They are one of the best in the capital. You can rest assured about that." At this point, Wen Xiao paused. "Next, I'll set up the homework for today. There are 2 things that the mystery branch has to pay attention to during battle. The first is an analysis of today's battle drill. The second part is an analysis of the things to pay attention to during battle based on your specialization and ability. You have to submit your report 2 days later. I'll go through them one by one." Class dismissed. After Wen Xiao left, the mystery branch students did not disperse as usual. Instead, they gathered to discuss what had happened today. Many students had already started to repost their posts on social media. A student from the extreme branch failed to challenge the mystery branch and got injured instead. A student from the extreme branch came to the mystery branch for a demonstration and looked down on everyone else. He was beaten instead. There were a variety of headlines. However, most of them were set to be viewed by a special audience. The rules of conduct for genetic newcomers were very strict. It had only been 20 days since the school opened, but many of the new students had already received a fine from the Special Intelligence Division. Some of the more severe cases had even been called to an education center to write a reflection. It was rumored that a daring individual had uploaded a video of the principal flicking his fingers in his accounts for his friends to see. The Special Intelligence Division then fined him $10,000 and lectured him for a day. 1. He even wrote a 1,000-word reflection report when he returned to school. His level treatment also dropped by 1 level. Thus, everyone had learned their lesson. Emergency Medical Center. Zhu Tui's injuries were treated quickly. He had a slight concussion, swollen eardrums, and bloodshot eyes. His soft tissue was severely bruised, and his left tooth was slightly fractured. The doctor administered an injection to Zhu Tui. You can return to the dormitory to rest after observation for half a day. I've administered the bone growth acceleration elixir to you. Your bone fracture should recover in 3 to 4 days. Pay attention to it during these few days. The medical personnel administering the injection suddenly asked, "Did you injure that lad?" Zhu Tui nodded. "Ha, you sure are impressive. How is he? Is it serious?" He had severe contusions to his testicles, which were accompanied by edema and bleeding. He has been through emergency treatment, but the situation is not optimistic. Even if the testicles are not completely necrotic, they would be partially necrotic. He would need to be treated with surgery in the future. The outcome was a little too severe. It wouldn't affect his future, would it? It would definitely affect him. However, the impact on his male abilities would not be too great. After all, the other one is good. But the real problem is the injury at his knee, the medical personnel said. Knee? What's wrong with his knee? That pearl might have pierced through his pants, but it would definitely not have pierced through his kneecap, right? Zhu Tui was shocked. It did not pierce through his kneecap. However, the angle was to the side, so the pearl happened to enter Deng Wei's knee joint. There shouldn't be a problem. The torn ligaments in the joints can be treated. The ligament is indeed damaged. However, the troublesome thing is this pearl. The pearls are poisonous. That's not possible, right? That was the first possibility Zhu Tui thought of. This pearl is not poisonous. Furthermore, it is a truly rare natural pearl. Then what's going on? The medical personnel looked at Zhu Tui and were a little frustrated. The natural pearls are not that strong. They shattered when they hit the inside of the knee joint. They shattered into countless little dots. Yes, it looks like they were beaten into pearl powder. Pearl powder? Zhu Tui instantly imagined a rather terrifying scene. That's right. Just as you thought, the fine pearl powder has entered his knee joint and is spraying everywhere. The ligaments, meniscus, synovial membrane, and joint cartilage were all covered in this kind of pearl powder. The levels of the powder varied. The difficulty of the operation was extremely high. There might be residual effects. I don't know about that. I didn't do it on purpose, Zhu Tui said. Write an explanation report after you're done. The school will definitely investigate such a serious incident that happened within 3 months of a new student entering the school. The medical personnel were very kind. Thank you. According to what the medical personnel said, Deng Wei's injuries were more severe than Zhu Tui had expected. He might have to replace some of his knee joints. This had a large impact on Deng Wei, especially since he was a student from the extreme branch. These kinds of injuries made Deng Wei's left leg a painful point and a weakness. After a knee replacement, the activation of genetic base points could not be done on the knee. It could be said that Deng Wei's future had been largely ruined by his injuries in this battle. The consequences were rather severe. Did Zhu Tui regret what he did? He did not regret it. He did not regret it at all. Zhu Tui might have been more merciless if he had to do it again. Today, Zhu Tui received another education. He started to reflect. However, he felt a little pity for Deng Wei. He had been blinded by the people who were leading the way and had taken the initiative to cause trouble for Zhu Tui. He could only say that he deserved it. Of course, Deng Wei was not purely blinded by the person leading the group. There might be other effects, such as utility and reputation. Otherwise, he would not have deliberately recorded a video before the battle. He would have saved the extreme branch's reputation by beating Zhu Tui up early on. Then, Deng Wei's reputation in the Extreme Branch Institute would reach a very high level. He would be able to assume a few student roles to a large extent. In a top college like the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College, the position that any student could hold was of utmost importance. That was only one of the benefits. Wen Xiao, what happened in your class? The medical center called just now and said that Deng Wei might have to have his knee replaced. Do you know what that means to a student from the Extreme Branch Institute? You were the one who invited the student over. You have to give me an explanation for this. Inside the office, Wen Xiao received a scolding call. It was a call from the vice chairman of the Extreme Branch Institute, Zhou Wenji. Vice Chairman Zhou, this was an accident. The corner of Wen Xiao's mouth was filled with bitterness. The student was almost crippled, and you dare to say it's an accident? How does a teacher like you manage things? Also, who was the student that injured him? How could he be so merciless? How could he be so merciless to his classmates? It had not been 3 months. Is he going to kill someone after 3 months? Vice Chairman Zhou sounded very angry. Your mystery branch has to give us an explanation for this matter. You have to punish the student who injured him severely. Wen Xiao still wanted to say something, but Vice Chairman Zhou had already hung up the phone.